common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And joining us now here on Katz and Cosby is Senator Steve Daines from the great state of Montana. Here we are at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. And I know you've been in charge, of course, of all the Senate candidates. You have a huge role. Tonight, we're going to hear from them, but we're also going to hear from Nikki Haley. What does tonight mean? It's about safety and security of America, a huge issue.
Look, it's about unity, and what President Trump is doing, he's unifying the party, step one, but he's unifying the nation. And bringing Nikki Haley out tonight was another example how we're unifying the party and unifying the nation. These threats to America are profound. We've never seen the threat level like we're seeing today in terms of what's coming across the southern border, what's happening in Iran today, Israel, with Russia, with China, North Korea, with Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. It is time to unite as a nation and come together, and it takes a strong leader. What a contrast. President Trump, who projects strength. It takes me back to those days of Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. A weak president like Carter, a weak president like Biden is dangerous. And as a strong president like Reagan that changed the direction of our country, Trump is doing the same thing. I can't wait for November to come and for him to start serving us again as our great president in January of 25.
You know, you talked about the border and also what's happening on our southern border, our northern border. Huge issue when we see what's happening of those on the terrorist watch list. And I think all Americans, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are so concerned. That's an enormous issue.
Yeah, I think one thing that's lost in the narrative as we're talking about the southern border, we see the images of the 10 million illegals coming across our southern border. But this is not an immigration debate. This is a national security debate. The Joint Terrorism Task Force of the FBI arrested 8 nationals from Tajikistan who were planning a terror attack in our country. Do you realize that back in March, there was a terror attack in Moscow, Russia, where they went into a performing arts center, they lit the place on fire, murdered 147 innocent people, and wounded 500. Those were Tajikistan nationals radicalized by ISIS Khorasan. Look, these 8 Tajiks came across our southern border. They were arrested in New York, in Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. This battle is now on our soil, and it's by the grace of God that we have not yet seen a terror attack on our soil, and for the interdiction efforts, certainly, of law enforcement.
You know, obviously a huge issue with security. Look what happened to President Trump. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting some details, Senator, so that there was a huge Iranian threat also against this president, too, that they even beefed up Secret Service. How concerned are you of these lapses, obviously, in security by Secret Service and others?
Oh, gosh.
This is an enormous issue as we talk about the threat level.
Oh, boy. You know, I, as a Montanan, I'm very capable of the use of firearms. I'm actually a long-range shooter. I enjoy it as a sport. Very aware of the failures that we saw, that 130-yard position that assassin took with probably a .223, the 55-grain bullet. That it's by the grace of God that Trump is with us. I mean, think about it. It was a quarter inch that separated us this week from having a memorial service versus a national convention. Imagine if we were sitting here right now, Rita, if that assassin's bullet had been a quarter inch in a different direction. We'd be at some kind of memorial service this week. The country would be in chaos. This is a complete failure by those who are assigned to protect President Trump. This is why we need an investigation. Investigate quickly. I'm grateful to see what we have here in Milwaukee. Lots of security here, but the threat level's high. And it's important at this moment that we have sound and safe and secure environment to have a rally for President Trump, to have a convention, and we're going to have a big celebration Thursday night when President Trump comes out and accepts the nomination.
Should the head of Secret Service, should she be fired, Senator Daines?
Look, let's get the investigation done. But, I mean, heads need to roll. They really do. I mean, I spent 28 years in the private sector. This is a complete failure. I mean, you have like one task to do is to protect the president. To think that somebody had a perch at 130 yards on a roof is absolutely unforgivable. Complete failure. Let's get the facts and let's make sure that we have a really aggressive action plan to deal with inept performance, as well as to put the right people in place here that know how to protect the President of the United States.
Absolutely. And before I let you go, Senator, of course, you're in charge of the Senatorial Committee.
Yep.
And today we heard from Adam Schiff, of course, a Democrat from California, saying that he thinks it's going to be a wipeout by the Republicans, that they will do so well in the Senate. And he also thinks that there's a very good chance that the Republicans will keep the House. And, of course, he believes they're going to take the White House. That's good news for you, of course, and your mission. What's your reaction to that there's clearly panic on the Democratic side?
Well, I don't believe a lot of things that Adam Schiff says, first of all. So what he says, I probably take with a grain of salt. I think he's probably got a motive here to try to bump Joe Biden out of this race. And so I think there's probably but I think he's stating something that's a concern that many Democrats have at the moment. Here's my concern. We cannot get complacent and overconfident. I think this race tightens up. We'll see what happens. But let's not forget, we battle against the mainstream media. They'll control the narrative between now and the election. We've got to get our people out to vote. Really important that when our people are out there voting, in places like Montana, they're also voting for Tim Sheehy to beat John Tester. That seals the deal for the Republican majority, because President Trump needs a Republican majority. When I first met President Trump, when I started this new job as chairman of the NRSC, I went down to Mar-a-Lago in early, I think it was February of 23. I said, Mr. President, the most important thing we can give you as our new president is a robust Republican majority who will have your back. Tim Sheehy in Montana, Bernie Moreno in Ohio, Mike Rogers in Michigan, Kerry Lake in Arizona, Sam Brown in Nevada, Eric Hovde in Wisconsin, of course, Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania. We've got a great race developing in New Mexico with Nella Domenici. So these are all great patriots running. The most important thing we can give President Trump, let's give him a Republican majority. We got to get our voters out, though.
We have some great candidates. It is terrific to be here with you. Thank you so much, Senator Steve Daines. Wonderful to be here with you at the RNC in Milwaukee.
Thank you, Rita.